You know what time it is. Money, power, politics. Yesterday, we were talking about it. This new system for companies that are seeking tariff refunds from the Trump administration. We're talking $166 billion paid in import taxes, right? Go to the portal, file to get your refund, and in 60 to 90 days, you should get it. Well, the president discussed this during an interview on CNBC today, and he sent a very clear message to businesses hoping to use it. Watch this.
There's a whole number of very large companies, including Apple and Amazon and others, that have not sought reimbursements yet. Would you find it offensive for them to try to collect a refund?
I think it's brilliant if they don't do that. I actually think if they don't do that, they got to know me very well. If they don't do that, I'll remember them. I will tell you that.
They got to know me. I'm a gangster. Did you hear that, corporate America? You will be brilliant if you do not try to get the refund you are legally entitled to, even remembered by the president. But here's the problem. If these businesses do not file to get a piece of the $166 billion they are owed by the U.S. government, they're likely going to face massive lawsuits from their own shareholders. After all, this is their money. And in effect, it is your money because all of us, even now, are paying a 12% tariff rate on imports. And there is no refund system coming to return the money spent by consumers. So this thing is complicated. Joining me now, my dear friend Gillian Tett, columnist and member of the Financial Times editorial board. She's got a podcast starting tomorrow. You're going to care about it. And Neil Irwin, chief economic correspondent for Axios. Gillian, the statement from the president reads like a promise to companies that don't seek refunds. Like, this is crazy to me. This is like how Banana Republic operates. If I'm a shareholder of Amazon or Apple or any of these companies that are due this money and they don't file to get it, you're not doing your job.
Absolutely. I mean, I spent a lot of time at Cambridge University where I oversee King's College, and that was created by King Henry VI, VII, VIII. This is like a Tudor royal court where essentially the king is saying, I am going to have my favoured courtiers come give me presents and goodies and suck up to me, and then I'll be nice to them, and that'll be good for them. And the problem for shareholders right now is that they have to balance off the fact they're not getting the refunds they're owed against the fact that the king, a.k.a. President Trump, can do real vicious damage to the companies who dare to defy him. So some shareholders might say, actually, it's better to forego a bit of tariff money and suck up to the king and keep in his good graces. Others will say, this is not America, this is not the law, we're owed that money, we're going to sue.
Neil, what is your take? These businesses are owed the money.
Yeah, look, this is something the president seems to like about tariffs. It gives him this unilateral power to grant exemptions and exert power. We saw this today. He had this social media post about Tim Cook, the outgoing CEO of Apple, where he clearly loves the idea that Tim Cook was having to kind of impress the president and call him up and ask for things. But that's a weird way to run a government, where it's very personalist rule. It's the president making individual decisions based on company by company things. But if you're a big company, you need a regulatory approval. You are trying to do a big merger. You can understand why these CEOs want to play ball with that, but it's not the way that advanced countries have traditionally run things and the reason they've become so rich.
And those of us, the consumers, who for the last 2 years have been paying up on all sorts of things, Neil, there's not going to be any mechanism where any of these companies that do get the refund turn around and say, hey, consumers, you're the ones we actually passed the higher cost on to. We're going to pay you back here. No chance of that, is there?
Yeah, it's always been ambiguous how that might happen. You know, the way tariffs work is the importer of record pays the bill, so they're the ones getting the refund. That might not be the retailer you dealt with. That might be the producer. So it's always been ambiguous how much that's going to flow through to consumers. But to the degree it was going to flow through to consumers, this adds another wrench into that calculus.
Let's talk about the economy quickly, Gillian, because on one hand, you've got higher gas prices, and that's really difficult for people. Inflation is still a problem. But we just got new data showing that retail sales posted their biggest gain in March in 3 years. So on one hand, it could be because, hey, we've got these increased gas prices. But on the other, people don't like higher prices, but they're out there spending. So is this an economy that's fundamentally is doing well, or one on the brink of disaster, depending on how you want to read this data?
Well, if you feel confused by President Trump's messages, try looking at the economy right now, because you have just as much contradiction and confusion there as well. The reality is we know that consumer sentiment has been plunging or consumer confidence in recent months on the back of the Strait of Hormuz crisis. We also know that higher gas prices are going to hurt a lot of low-income consumers, and yet retail sales are healthy. That could be because higher income consumers are still spending, and you have this K-shaped recovery where the rich are doing well, the poor aren't. It could be because people are thinking, actually, we're going to try and front load our spending and spend now before prices go up in the future. Or it could be just that the data's wrong. And one of the really concerning things right now is there's a lot of statistical series which are starting to be questioned, partly because the administration has been gutting the statistical office.
Well, let's talk about the guy who's going to be overseeing a whole lot of this data. Fed Chair nominee Kevin Warsh, who was on the Hill today for his confirmation hearing, getting a whole lot of tough questions from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. I want to share a little bit of it.
So the president has never sat you down, looked you in the eye, and said, here's the deal, Scooter. I'm going to appoint you, but you got to agree to lower interest rates. That didn't happen, or did happen?
The president never once asked me to commit to any particular interest rate decision, period.
We had some U.S. attorney with a dream, or assistant U.S. attorney, thinking it would be cute to bring Chair Powell under an investigation just a few months before the position was going to be open. Let's get rid of this investigation so I can support your confirmation.
Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
We try to keep politics, if I'm confirmed, out of the Federal
I'm just
Reserve.
asking a factual question. I need to know, I need to measure your independence and your courage.
Senator, I believe that this body certified that election many years ago.
That's not the question I'm asking. I'm asking, did Donald Trump lose in 2020?
And I'm suggesting you in 2020, the Fed
can't
made
answer that.
Come on, Kevin Warsh. Kevin Warsh is highly qualified for this job, but it is not political to answer who won the damn 2020 election, and he knows it. Neil, what did just that tidbit, or I'm assuming you watched a lot more of it today, what did it reveal to you about Kevin Warsh and how he could lead the central bank?
Look, he used this wording himself. He wants a regime change at the Federal Reserve. He's not looking to tinker around the edges. He's not looking to preserve the continuity of the Bernanke, Janet Yellen, Jay Powell Fed that we've had the last 20 years. He is looking to do more root and branch change. He wants to change the communications approach. He wants to shrink the balance sheet. He wants to really shake up, overdependence in his view on economic models and kind of fine-tuning the economy. Now, what that looks like in practice is a really open question. That's he'll have to persuade the committee, the committee of the Federal Open Market Committee, and he'll have to risk really disturbing markets that have gotten used to how the Fed operates and has for a very long time. So he is trying to be a change agent in the Federal Reserve, not just go with kind of how things have worked for a long time.
What's your take?
Well, he was trying to square an impossible circle by, the one hand, pretending he cares, saying he cares about inflation. I believe he does, and wants to be independent, but also trying very hard not to offend President Trump by essentially saying he's going to raise rates. But I'd say there's something else very interesting as well, which is he didn't talk about financial stability and wasn't asked much about that, and wasn't really asked much about how he would cope with financial crises. Now, that's something I've been thinking a lot about because, as you said, we're launching this podcast about the history of money tomorrow. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there, because you've seen signs from the Treasury that they're seeking to take more and more control over the financial stability issues. Just last week, Treasury Secretary Bessent called in the companies to talk about private capital concerns and what's happening in the private markets. And so one of the big elephants in the room that people aren't talking about right now is that if Kevin Warsh does become Fed chair and starts to restructure the balance sheet, what would that mean for debt issuance? What will it mean for financial stability? And who's actually going to be running that? Inflation is only part of the story here.
Neil, last word to you. You think Kevin Warsh, you think this is all going to work out? He'll be confirmed quickly?
Define quickly, like Jay Powell's term is up May 15th, 3 weeks away. I don't see a pathway out to getting this resolved before that. It could create an ugly situation over the summer where who's really in charge of the Federal Reserve? A chairman pro tem is not a great way to run a railroad. But that looks like where we're heading as we head into summer.